Well, good to see you all again. We're pleased with the class that we were able to secure today. I think that it's a group of really fine young men who represent the standards and excellence of UCLA academically, athletically, and from a character standpoint. And I think the Bruin Nation will be very, very happy when they get to know these guys a little bit better. A lot goes into putting a class together. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that don't get the credit that they deserve, and I would like to start by just mentioning a couple of them. You know, our travel department, led by Audrey Castillo, does an amazing job. You know, they've got 10 coaches traveling across the country. They're trying to secure flights, change flights, get cars, get hotels. Then they've got to bring in all the official visitors and their families and set up hotels, and they do a heck of a job. Our academic support staff meets with all of our recruits, and they do a tremendous job as well. They spend their weekends here meeting with the families, talking to them about the support, the great support that we offer here at UCLA. We spend over $1.5 million as a department on academic support for our student athletes, and I think that's one of the reasons that we do so well. As an example of that, 43 of our football players made the honor roll during the fall quarter, and all but one of our freshmen scholarship players made the honor roll, and the guy that didn't had a 2.9. And I think that's just a great credit to those young men, and I think it's a great credit to the people that work in our academic support. Our compliance department works hand in hand with our coaches as we evaluate these players and evaluate whether or not they'll be eligible to get into UCLA and help us contribute, and they do a tremendous job. And then our student athletes, our players, those are the guys that sell the program. You know, they are great representatives of what we're trying to do from a culture standpoint. They give us great feedback at the end of a weekend on what they feel from the recruits, whether they believe that those are the young men that will fit into our program, demonstrate the characteristics that we are after. And I want to just thank our players for all the hard work they did. But we're excited about this class. It's a group that will add to a couple of classes we've put together in past years and hopefully get us back to where we want, which is competing for the Pac-12 championship. So, any questions?
Jim, Jalen's obviously the headline of this class. You already have him for spring ball. What sort of role do you see him potentially being able to carve out immediately next season?
It's been great to have Jalen and Darnay and Jimmy Jaggers on campus, and they did a tremendous job recruiting this class as well. And just the impact that those three have already had. You see it in the weight room. Their work ethic is fantastic. You see it in the classroom. They're doing very well in school. And then you're just around their infectious personalities on a daily basis, and they're the kind of young men that we want in this program. And I think they're all three very special players. You asked about Jalen. I think he's rare. You know, I think he's got a rare blend of size and speed and athleticism and tenacity and intelligence. This is a young man that is a tremendous student and one of the most pleasurable young men you'll ever be around.
Jim, how much did this day fall the way you expected it? Were there any last second, oh, we got him or we didn't get him?
No, you know, you're nervous until you get the final approval from compliance, and this, you know, the written notice comes in, whether it's electronic or through the fax. I think they all came electronically this year. Just one surprise, but you know, we had 18, maybe 19 scholarships that we could give, and I believe we signed 18. We've got a couple of graduate transfers that we're going to add to this team, hopefully in the spring or fall. That are targeted, so we're about where we wanted to be.
Your program's been on the rise. You were really hurt by injuries last year. Do you feel this class continues this trend, or is it in any way plateauing?
No, yeah. Last year was awful, obviously. I think, you know, to go 4-8 and be able to secure a class like this says a lot about UCLA and what it has to offer from an athletic and academic standpoint. It says a lot about the people that I already mentioned that are involved in recruiting. And, you know, I think eventually these young men will grow into guys that will help us reach our goal, which is, you know, our immediate goal, which is to win the Pac-12 championship.
Hey, Jim, talk a little bit about the recruitment of Xavier. He came in here and visited, I think, when Coach Fraley wasn't even here yet.
He did. This kid's really unique and really special, and I think you guys are going to love to hear his story out of his mouth. I'll just give you some tidbits. He's from the Ivory Coast. His mother was killed when he was very, very young. He grew up with a father who played professional soccer. He moved to Philadelphia. He eventually found his way to Austin, Texas, and moved in with Patrick and Julie Kelly and their family. Tremendous people. It's a you know, I don't want to compare it exactly, but you could say it's a little bit of a blindside story. This kid's special now. He's one of the most intelligent young men that I've ever had the chance to meet. I think if you got to see his interview this morning and the way he presented himself as he announced that he was coming to UCLA, you'd agree that he has a lot of class. Once we hired Hank, we got Hank on the phone with him immediately, and then Hank went and saw him. I think more than anything for Stephon, it was the opportunity to come to UCLA and get a great education, play for a staff that has years and years of NFL experience, play for a coach that started 123 games in the NFL as an offensive lineman and an offensive coordinator that's played for 3 Super Bowl winning head coaches as well as Jim Harbaugh and Steve Spurrier, and be around, you know, this great program. But it was kind of fast and furious with Stephon.
He was ruled ineligible, I think, twice out of his last 3 years there. Is there any...
He was what?
Ruled ineligible.
Okay.
Like twice out of his last 3 years there. Once transfer, and then last year it was because it was his 5th year or whatever. Is there any concern about, I don't want to say like his academics or whatever, but the transferring to UCLA, knows his transfer will be him?
Well, he's not transferring to UCLA.
Or going to getting into
Yeah,
UCLA.
he's not transferring here. He's a freshman enrolling here. And there's concerns about all these guys. We want to make sure they finish their high school careers strong. This guy has a very unique case. You know, I'll say this about UCLA and about our admissions process. I believe this to be true. You can confirm it, but there's only 3 schools in the country, us, Stanford, and Northwestern, I believe it is, that require the student athletes to be admitted before we can send them a national letter of intent. That used to be the case at USC, but Pete Carroll was able to get that change. So we have very high standards here, and the people here believe in Stephon, and we believe that when we surround him with the support that we offer, and knowing how motivated he is as a young man, and how intelligent he is, that he's going to thrive in this environment. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't thrive in this environment.
What's a part of this? You've said to us many times about how much you love college athletics compared to the pros. You don't get this element in the pros and going into homes. Is it a relief? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Where's your heart with this whole system?
It depends at what time of what day you ask me. You know, I do love the home visits. I enjoy building the relationships with these people. You know, typically our relationships with most of these people start when they're sophomores or juniors in high school. And so we get to know them and their families very, very well. And that's a lot of fun. What's not fun is when you've built a relationship with a young man and his family and they decide to go elsewhere for whatever reason. That makes it tough. But it's exciting, you know, and it's exciting to see where they started and then where they are when they leave UCLA. And as we know, we've had tremendous success with these guys going on and having successful careers in the NFL. And the ones that haven't had a chance to play in the NFL have had success in whatever endeavor that they, pursued. So for me, it's very, very rewarding.
It's also a day where you'll look back and say, boy, we missed it on that kid. He's better than we thought, or he wasn't as high. How long does that process usually take?
Here's what's interesting is that we don't look at rankings other than just to get a general idea of how people around the country view our players. We trust our eyes. We have over 80 years of evaluating and playing experience at the highest level, the NFL level, and so we try to evaluate as an NFL staff would, and that involves evaluating character, certainly potential. You're guessing on some things. You're predicting where they may end up, but we trust our eyes and our evaluations, and we feel really good about these guys. We maybe are looking for different traits than other teams, and I was fortunate to work for one of the great evaluators of all time, in Bill Walsh, and Bill would always emphasize to us, don't tell me what he can't do, show me what he can do. And if he can do it once, then we can get him to do it all the time. And he would say, show me the traits that are going to make him a great San Francisco 49er. what are the character traits? What are the athletic traits? What are the personality traits that are going to make him a great 49er? And if you can't demonstrate that to me, then don't bring him to the table. Have a plan for him. You know, where do you see this? He used to say, where's this guy going to be 3 weeks into training camp, 3 games into the season, 3 years into his career? And so we try to use the same formula. It's a little bit harder when you're dealing with a 16, 17, 18-year-old than a 22-year-old, 23-year-old, but we try to apply the same thing.
Jim, you mentioned you know, the infectious personality of a guy like Darnay. You didn't bring in any receivers. Do you anticipate maybe him having a role on the offense?
Potentially, yeah. We purposely, well, you know, we tried to get a receiver, one guy that we pursued pretty hard. He decided to go elsewhere. We wish him luck. But that was not a position where we felt, you know, it was imperative that we add numbers. And with the limited scholarships we had available, we had to make some tough choices. So we did not sign a running back, nor did we sign a receiver. Had a couple guys decided to come here, we would have gladly taken them, but they chose to go elsewhere. I think with Darnay, it's too early to say. You know, I don't want Darnay to have a career where he never settles into a position and can excel. I think that would be a mistake. I also think it would be a mistake not to take a guy like Darnay who has the explosive skill set with the ball in his hands and not use it. So time will tell how much he has the ball in his hand from an offensive standpoint or a return standpoint, but he will have it in his hands.
Coach, I know you don't like to compare, but if you're looking at your defensive line and your defensive back classes here, is this probably maybe the best you've had since you've been here, would you say?
It's hard for me to compare because when I do, I'm talking about guys that are on our team already. I'll just say this, Tracy, I'm excited about these guys. You know, I think when you look at Jalen Phillips and Odua, you've got, you know, 2 defensive ends with length and explosiveness and speed. And I know that Odua is a little bit under the radar, but at the Army game, you know, in the practices, we got great reports from Brandon. You know, I think that Martin Andrus is a guy that I just fell in love with immediately. I went down to LA High School and saw LA High School play Crenshaw. It was about 110 degrees on the field, and this guy never came off the field. And he's a 6'3", 300-plus pounder that played both ways, and that was impressive to me. And he played hard, and I love his personality and his work ethic. And then Greg Rogers, you know, is one of the top-ranked defensive tackles in the country, and is going to give us great depth immediately. And for us, depth means you play. You know, we play a lot of defensive linemen. You have to. When I look at the guys we picked up in the secondary, obviously Darnay, you know, highly acclaimed. His reputation is well earned. You talk about Elijah Gates. I think, you know, he's one of the top corners in the country, and, you know, probably a little bit undersold. And then Jaylen Shaw, to me, is a guy that I can't wait to watch him work on the field. You know, I went back last night and watched more of his tape, and it's just like, wow, you know, this could be one of those guys, you know. And then you look at Quentin Lake. How great to have, you know, Carnell Lake's son back here. This guy's 6'1", 185 pounds. You know, within a year he'll be a 200-pounder. You know, his dad, you know, obviously a great Bruin. This is a tremendous young man from modern day who's going to once again represent this university well. And then Mo Osling is, you know, a 49-plus foot triple jumper who's 6'1", you know, 175 pounds, and just has tremendous potential. So I don't know if it's the best, Tracy, but there's the 10 guys I like a lot right there, or 9 guys. I'm sorry, 9 guys.
Jim, with the two tight ends and the offensive line group, how do they sort of reflect what you'd like the offense to be under Jed?
Well, I'll let Jed talk about that when you guys talk to him. You know, our offense is going to be a Sunday system. It's going to be a system that's versatile, that utilizes multiple personnel groups and multiple formations, and we'll go at tempo sometimes and slow it down sometimes. I think if you turn on the Super Bowl and watch those two teams play on Sunday, you'd see what we would like to be offensively, a combination of Atlanta and New England. And, you know, we certainly feel like we have the quarterback that has the intelligence to be able to do those things. And for us, it's always just adding, you know, tremendous young men to our roster that can help us with our ultimate goal here, our initial goal of winning the Pac-12 championship.
To follow up on Jaylen Shaw, when you said you really went back to the film and like, what little I know of recruiting is sometimes it's difficult to measure a kid at one school versus another based on the level of talent they're playing. Playing at Centennial, he's seeing top talent. What did you see from him against these top schools?
I think he's very competitive. I think he's got quickness and speed, and I think that he's fearless. He loves collisions, and I like that in a corner. I like a guy that can go defend a pass and then come up and tackle a running back in space. He's got size. He's 5'11", closing in on 190 pounds, at this point in time, and he's getting bigger. So, I don't want him to get too big, but he'll come here at, probably 5'11", 190, 195, and he can run. It's interesting, different positions you evaluate different ways. With a corner or receiver, it's not always the level of competition that they're going against. You're looking at their skill set, their speed, their quickness, their ability to get in and out of a cut, break on a ball, catch a pass at its high point, break up a pass, things like that. When you're evaluating, more of collision positions, offensive and defensive line, running back, tight end, those types of things, then the level of competition comes more into play.
You mentioned the grad transfers. Do you have any commitments there yet, or?
I don't believe I'm allowed to speak to that yet, but we have a great plan in place, and it's something that we want to be able to do we've got a very, very young team. If you look at our roster, a lot of young players, and that's great. We're happy with it. They're young, talented players, but we'd like to be able to add, a couple guys at key positions that can bring some veteran depth to our team.
How much impact did the new coaches, particularly Coach Fish, have on recruiting here at the end?
Well, he had tremendous impact on Stephon. He had a relationship with Stephon and his family, and obviously that gave us, a great in there. We had talked to him, we were recruiting him, but we had not made the connection to that family that Jed had. I think when our recruits came in here and they talked to Jed, and then they talked to Hank, and they realized the pedigree that those guys brought to the position, it excited them. I think our players currently on the roster are very excited about those two guys. And then, of course, let's not forget Deshaun Foster. We did not sign a running back, but I'll tell you what, this is as great as any signing today. The signing of Deshaun Foster ranks right up there at the top. Just to be able to bring back a great Bruin, a great person, a guy that went and played 8 years in the NFL, then came back to UCLA and earned his degree. This is what you want your players to be like, Deshaun Foster.
Did you meet with the players and do your evaluations? Do you know, is everybody coming back? Do you have a count who's not coming back?
I do. In general. I don't have specifics. It's ever-changing, it's fluid,
So there will be some players leaving from the current
well, there'll be some players coming in for sure, and it's hard for me to say, but there's always attrition. There just always is, for a reason that you can never anticipate. And I think you have to plan a little bit for it. You have to anticipate it a little bit. You hope it doesn't happen. We want all these young men to stay here, play for UCLA, get their degree. But the reality of this situation is with every program is sometimes there is attrition.
Jim, any sort of bigger picture trends in recruiting you noticed this year, stuff that when you're at the coaches convention and you're talking to other guys, or just things you saw?
I think that the NCAA allowing us to text was a big thing. It opened up a lot of communication for us. When you direct message on Twitter, you get, how many characters you get on Twitter? 140 characters. But when you text, you can actually hold a conversation. And it's, I have young kids and kind of have a feel for their, that age group. And it's interesting, but they believe texting to be talking, and so you can text and they think you're talking. For us, for the older ones of us, like, Tracy here,
thanks.
we need voice to voice to consider it talking, but this younger generation considers texting talking, which was interesting.
What do you think about the proposed new signing period in December?
Well, I think that there's real positives to it, and then I think that there could be some negatives. I think that it would hurt the networks, especially some of the networks that cover the signing day, for 12 to 14 hours, because it's going to be watered down a little bit on a day like today. But for us, I haven't evaluated it yet. When they make a decision, then we'll go with that decision. Right now, that's in someone else's hands, and I don't have anything to do with it at this point in time.
You guys have a new apparel deal that kicks in this summer. How big, or what was Under Armour's kind of received within the recruits?
Very, very well. We're an Adidas team, and we're proud that we're an Adidas team right now, and Adidas has done a tremendous job for us. But we will be switching, obviously, apparel companies. And there was no negative feedback. There was only positive feedback. And I think that, you know, Dan and our staff that made that decision did a tremendous job of understanding all the ramifications of this deal. And I think it's a real big plus for UCLA.
Along those same lines, that facility, a lot of kids told me that they liked it a lot.
Mhm.
It seems like it's ahead of schedule. How big is that? And is it ahead of schedule?
What's today, February 1st? I was told that on June 1st we would be moved in. So that is a little bit ahead of schedule. Now we have to, you know, consider there may be some rain days, but they're doing a marvelous job over there. The guys that are working on that are ahead of schedule. Rip Shear has done a tremendous job of spearheading that project. I mean, when you guys hopefully at some point will get a chance to go through it, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. And it's, you know, a lot of kids tell us that it was the top facility that they'd seen on the recruiting trip. So that's a real bonus for us going forward.